Raising teenagers is hard. Understatement of the century. This is Mentor Select. Mentor Select. Parenting teens to be successful adults. Mentor Select serves parents who are raising teens. Every week, Derek interviews leading experts that work with teens, educators, counselors, mentors, and authors to give you practical tips, strategies, and resources that you can incorporate immediately to better connect and understand your teen. All while parenting them to be successful adults, focusing on social and emotional development, something that's left out of the classroom, but not in ours. Be sure to subscribe, share, and rate. This is Mentor Select, and this is your host, Derek Phillips.
Hey parents, you're in for a great treat today. We have Dr. Doss, who is an instructor at Indiana State University, joining us. How are you, Dr. Doss?
I'm doing good. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, making the most of this quarantine, stay-at-home orders.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. So how are you adjusting to it?
I'm adjusting to it well. It's a lot, like you said, a lot of family time, being able to work out in the garage. So my garage is my office and also my workout space. So
okay.
What I'm doing is towards the end of the semester now, we're pretty much wrapping things up. I had to shift all of my classes to online, and so that's been a war in itself. But it's successful at the same time. So so no real complaints.
Cool. Yeah, got to adapt and overcome. Yes, indeed. Yes, sir. So, Dr. Doss, I heard you recently won a pretty prestigious award. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's a teaching excellence award. I was awarded this particular award due to my ability to reach the student in terms of teaching. One of the things that I pride myself in is being able to create a space where students can hear their voices, right? Where they can pretty much try to critically interrogate interrogate their lives and the lives of other human beings. And so so that's one of the awards that I got this year, and so I'm proud of it, and did a little celebration here and there with my family. So
all right. Fantastic. Definitely congratulations.
Thank you.
You had to work hard to get that, and I'm sure it's well deserved. Now, and the part that sucks is they normally have like a big award ceremony and all that, but did get to experience that. But you got experience with the people that matter the most, your family.
Looks good on my CV, I guess. So.
Absolutely. So how long have you been an instructor at Indiana State University?
This will be going on, I want to say, my third year here.
Okay.
I finished up most of my Ph.D. work at IU in 2016, and so I've been here for about 3 years or so at Indiana State. So yes.
Nice. Awesome. So as I like to say, you're on the front lines with teens as they're transitioning from high school into college. So you're seeing it from a different perspective. Absolutely. So we're certainly going to get your insight there. But I want to just kind of dig deeper on what you mentioned about creating a space where students can hear their voice. Why is that so important, and how do you go about accomplishing that?
So one of the things that I do, one of the teaching strategies that I have is that I teach from a student-centered approach.
Okay.
I take a student-centered approach to teaching. I always go by this philosophy of, whenever students step foot into my classroom, one of the things that I try to do is help tease out that already embedded knowledge that sits inside of every one of us.
Okay.
And in doing so, like I said, creating that space where students can try to figure out who they are from an intellectual perspective, and also from a personal perspective in regards to the classroom. And so students love it. A lot of my classes that I teach are discussion-based classes, right? And so we may do a little debating, may do a little arguing, but students prepare for the real world, right?
Right.
Helping them to not only teach them, but I teach them how to learn, how to really interrogate life, right? Because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. One of my things, or my ultimate goal, is to create critical thinkers, because we really need more thinkers out there.
Right.
That's one of my main objectives. Yes.
Wow. Love that. And Yeah, as far as teaching teens to be critical thinkers, what are some strategies that parents can do to really cultivate that and prepare their teens to be critical thinkers? Because like you mentioned, that's so important to be just to thrive in life. You have to be able to critically think and just interrogate what you're learning.
Yeah.
So
Well, one of the strategies that parents can do is, I believe every moment is a teachable moment. Let's see how we can take this. So I could talk about my life in terms of family structure, right? And so when we think about the institution of the home, I grew up in a home that was very African-centered around, African culture. My dad, like I said, he has his master's degree in social work, but he was also a community type person in terms of mentoring, in terms of lecturing throughout the community. And so I was able to see him do his thing all the time. My mom was the same way. My mom, every time I saw her, she always had a book in her hand.
Okay.
Mom's an artist. She's a bit of everything. And so what these two individuals did for me, my parents, what they did for me was they created a space inside the home that was sort of like a buffer zone to the nonsense that was going on outside of the home. Right.
Yeah.
And every moment for me as a kid was a teachable moment. I remember my dad used to say things like, you can learn a lot from street people. And he said things like on what not to do, right? And also how to survive. And so, like I said, my dad was a community person. My mom was a community person. And one of the things that parents can do with regards to preparing their kids for that next level in terms of education and just life in general is making sure that that space that we call home is conducive to their kids' growth and development from a mental, spiritual, and physical perspective. They have that balance. They have that foundation. You have nothing to worry about when they do get outside of your house, right? That's one major thing that parents can do, And in my home, I was surrounded by books. Every day my pops used to say, even to when I got into high school, he said, son, you got any homework? I said, nah. He said, no, it's always that homework. You see that book right there?
You ain't read that one yet.
I never got away from him. And so what it did for me before going off to school, it prepared me mentally, man. It really helped me to survive in this intellectual space, right?
Right.
Also in sports, right? I know a lot of times, when we think about what it means to survive, I think a lot of times, and in terms of what it means to get yourselves prepared or getting kids prepared for college life, we forget about being physically fit for this journey, right? The brain is a muscle in itself, right? We have to exercise the brain, but we also have to exercise the body. So all of that plays in part in regards to making sure that we're building our kids to the point where they're prepared for any and everything that they may face in life.
Yes.
This is the type of home that I, came from, was a strong foundation. It was all about balance, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And it just got me prepared, man. And like I said, we have to have that foundation. The institution of the home has to be that buffer zone. It has to be that place where kids are able to find themselves, but it also has to be a place where they're able to get themselves prepared for what's to come.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I think what you mentioned is so important, especially about having that buffer zone, because we both grew up in the same place, Gary, Indiana, and it's a tough place to grow up. Definitely back in the 90s, early 2000s. There's certainly a lot of nonsense outside that buffer zone you described. But I think what's so important about that and what's so inspiring about your story should be reassurance or inspiring to the parents to know that, hey, even if it's just a lot of negative influences outside the home, long as you establish that foundation, that balance, then your kids are going to be prepared once they do encounter that adversity outside the home. So
because even in chaos, right? Even in chaos, there are teachable moments.
Right.
When we say when we think about our home back home in Gary, there's a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion, a lot of dysfunction. But when we began to understand each individual story, you understand why these things are.
Yeah, right.
So here at Indiana State, I get a lot of students that come in from Gary. It's one of the things that I love about teaching here. I get students from East St. Louis, Gary, and different parts of Indianapolis, Chicago. Right. And when I teach them, I make sure that my curriculum fits their life experience, so they can understand how to dissect the things that they've witnessed over the years or may have been a part of, right? And so when I have students, I just finished teaching a class on Black masculinity for the third time. It's something that I've created here as a special topics course. Wow. I have students come in and they read the stuff that I give them. They said, "Oh my God, this is the things that I'm reading is the stuff that I've always experienced. Now there are words to this experience, right?" Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm teaching them that, you can use your experience as research.
Yeah.
And so when they go back home and they see things going on, they're like, okay, I know what this is. I read about this back in my sociology class. I can apply a theory to this and dissect this and interrogate this the way I need to understand what's going on, right? I believe it's the things that we don't see are the things that really affects us the most. We know the obvious, right? And so, so we have to, even with that, we have to challenge our kids. We really do. We have to challenge them each and every time, because every day and every moment is a teachable moment.
Yeah, love that. Absolutely. Now, speaking of teens who grew up in maybe tough environments, inner city, what are some challenges you see that they encounter as they transition to college?
Yeah, and sometimes it could be a culture shock when they come out. I can remember the days that I went to Earlham. It was a private Quaker institution in Richmond, Indiana.
Okay.
Coming from Gary, there's a couple of guys that I went to school with that were from Gary. And one of the things that we experienced is like, man, like, I don't know. I think I should have went to IUN or something to stay.
Yeah.
It's different, right? But it really, that school really challenged us in terms of using that thing we call the brain, right?
Right.
Here, you see a lot of students are not probably emotionally prepared for college life. But it's all, at the end of the day, it's all a process, right?
Okay.
But when they get over that hump of, not being at home and not being with the friends that they used to have, it's amazing, right? And all they really need is a mentor to help guide them in that process.
All right. Yeah.
And I remember the times that when I was an undergrad at Earlham, I had those mentors. Not only my parents, like I said, I always called my parents. My dad, he was always there, like, brother, just stick with it. I remember one time I wanted to go home so bad. I'm like, man, bad grades. I looked good. He said, brother, don't worry about the grades. The grades will come. Everything's a process. Learning is a process. Life is a process.
Right.
As students, the ones that come in, first generation students, those that come to my office hours, I tell them, don't worry about the grades. As long as you learning in my class, as long as you learning here at Indiana State, that's what's most important, right?
Right.
Because learning is a process, so don't stress about it. Take your time and make sure that you have all your ducks in order and make sure you're just doing the work, So that's one of the things, just, when students come in to this new space, you ask yourself, are they emotionally prepared for this? Because this is going to be a long journey. That thinking, it can make you tired and it can wear you out. And it can be traumatizing too.
Right.
As long as you keep doing it, that's and keep with it and don't give up. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, certainly a marathon, no doubt about it.
It definitely is.
Now, especially in high school, there's so much focus on just the academics, getting prepared to go to college. But as you mentioned, just the emotional maturity is so important as well. What are some things that parents can do to prepare their teens emotionally prior to transitioning to college?
Ooh, man.
I got to save all the tough questions for you. I know you're ready.
That's a good question. Emotionally, like I said, it comes down to what's going on in the home. Right?
Yeah.
The balance in the home, you really don't have to, that's the process of preparing your kids to that next level in terms of their education. If mom and dad got a book in their hand, it's always, and I mean, it comes down to learned behavior, right?
Yeah.
if you can create that space for them where, they feel as if, I'm definitely ready for this next step, you have no worries. Right? Because when we think about our high schools nowadays, I'm not sure if it's changed. I know when we were in high school, it was all about I-step tests.
Yeah.
And we get your kid prepared for the test. Sure, if you don't pass this test, you're gonna be in the streets.
Let's do or die.
I'm like, oh, our educational systems have changed, right? We can definitely come to agreement that it's all about a test. It's not about helping kids to really preparing them to critically think about things. It's all about whether you can pass a test or not, right? And so when I get students coming in to my classes, they always ask, "Where's the PowerPoint? Are we going to have tests?" I'm like, "No, we're not going to do that because life is not a PowerPoint at the end of the day."
Right.
And life will test you, and I'm going to test you mentally and spiritually and physically. When you do this reading, right? And so that's one of the things that parents can do. Just start to really think about what they're doing as parents, right? If you picking up a book, you definitely know your kids are going to definitely do the same thing because at the end of the day, it's learned behavior.
Learned behavior, yep.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's something I say in the Army is lead from the front. Yes, indeed. So yeah, starts with the parents, starts at home, and that foundation. Mm-hmm. No doubt. Now, you mentioned the importance of just having a mentor. Just elaborate on that. Why is a mentor so important for teens?
So mentors are, to me, are lifesavers. I always try to mentor my students, anybody that need any help with anything, whether it's inside the classroom or outside the classroom. My students know that my doors are always open for them. But one of the important things about mentors is that they've been there, right? They've been there and done that. And so they always have that wisdom in regards to, giving you the tools that you need to help you prepare for that long road that they've been on already.
Yep.
I remember, like I said, my dad was a mentor to a lot of my friends back at home, also my mom. He actually had a mentors group back in Gary called Boys to Men. I remember him taking in kids from the streets and taking us to different places and experiencing different things. And it really helped us prepare. It really prepared us for that next level. And I was just fortunate to have him in my home, right? But to be able to share his wisdom with everybody in the community, I saw the importance of mentoring. Out of that group, man, we only had I want to say probably hundreds of kids that came through that organization. We only had one fatality, and that was one of my childhood friends who died in a car accident. Everybody ended up going off either to the military or to college. And what he did for us, he created a space for us to really find ourselves as kids, even with those that didn't have parents in the home, even with those that didn't have that structure in the home. They can always come to him, right? And so even till this day, I have people that, they call home and they want to ask for my dad. And I'm like, okay, I'll share my dad for a little bit, man.
quite generous of you.
But yeah, so, mentoring that's the most important thing that a person can do. I had mentors back at Earlham. I had one professor, a couple of professors. One, this brother named James Logan. He's there now. I remember taking his class, one class that I took, man. I don't even think I did it. I didn't do so good in this class, but I learned so much from him, right?
Yeah.
He used to mentor us a lot, man. We was trying to figure out what to do next. And man, he was just always that person that you can go to if, with anything, whether it's talking about things that's going on in the class or even outside of the class. I had another mentor advisor that I actually called this morning to talk to, Stephen Butler. He was at Earlham for some years, man. This is one guy who's a sociologist at heart. And he can break things down from a sociological perspective, which made me love sociology. I ended up getting my BA in sociology at Earlham because of him.
Okay.
And other people, another guy I like to mention, Gene Hambrick. Gene is a person who has this program where he's helping students to be social entrepreneurs, right? another mentor, real strong, real passionate about helping students. So I was surrounded by these individuals all my life. And man, they helped me a lot even today. Right. So I got mentors everywhere, but they're the most important people that a kid can have in their life. And whether that mentor is coming from the home, or even outside of the home.
Yeah, I totally agree. And speaking of culture shock, I know when, so I joined the Army right out of high school, and my first duty station was Germany.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I've been stationed in Germany for 2 years. But the biggest culture shock was realizing like how many people I would meet in Germany where the father was in the home, where most of their parents had married. And to me, that was a huge culture shock because growing up in Gary, there were so many, I didn't have any friends whose parents were married. So that was, I'm like, all right. It was just so weird to me. So it was an adjustment. But so yeah, to hear how your father was served as a father figure to so many other kids who didn't have fathers in the home and served as that mentor, that's pretty incredible. Now, something you mentioned earlier about just your philosophy, you take that student-centered approach as far as how you teach. I guess, how can parents kind of adopt that same philosophy, or what would be the benefits of doing that?
Just, like I said, going back into this idea of creating that space, even inside the home, and making sure that your kids have a voice, right? Because at the end of the day, one of your objectives is to prepare them to be successful outside of the house, right? And so making sure, putting them into things where they can find themselves and create their own identity, right? And whether it's sports, whether it's being part of a chess club, something that can help them to build themselves up from the inside out. That's one of the things I love about, the things that we did when we was back in school in terms of running track and field and the arena of sport really helped me in terms of that next level in my education. I was able to run at Earlham, even though Earlham was a Division III school. So they didn't give out scholarships. I had to pay and take out loans, but that's another story for another day.
Still got the experience though, competing at a collegiate level. Yeah.
For 4 years straight, I ran cross country and track. And even though I didn't have to, but it was just that drive that sports gave me, right? And so it physically, it prepared me for the mental strain that I had in regards to being in that classroom.
Yeah.
Anything about Earlham College, it's a liberal arts school. So we get that liberal arts education, man. It's an education where, I remember my sophomore year there, I took a couple of semesters of Arabic. One class,
wow.
I took international studies. Another class is biology, eco-bio. Man, so it was just, and you know what?
Really demanding.
It was very demanding, but I challenged myself. I wanted to take the hard classes. I wanted to take the classes everybody else was like, man, are you crazy? Why are you taking Arabic? Right? And so because I always had this intellectual curiosity about things, right? And that's one of the things that parents can do inside the home is to make sure that you put your kids in places and spaces and around people who are going to help them in regards to trying to figure out how life works, right? Just making sure you instill in them that thing that you need to have to be curious about life, right? Whether it's going to, I remember my dad used to take us to this Ethiopian restaurant to experience new cuisines instead of that stuff that we get back at home.
McDonald's, churches.
McDonald's kill so many people, man.
Yeah.
But he made sure that, growing up that we experienced new cultures and even our culture, African-American culture or African and African-American culture in regards to, spirituality, in regards to history, in regards to all these things. And so that really helped me a lot, man. That really, in terms of being curious about things, right? And questioning things and trying to understand and interrogate just life, right? Because life in itself, it's going to throw some heavy stuff at us, but we have to be prepared for it. Right.
Yeah, certainly. No doubt.
and learn from it, And so just making sure that you create that space where your kids are questioning. Don't be afraid. Don't make them be afraid to question things, right? Because I know a lot of times, and even with my little girls now, they question. I have my 4-year-old. She's always asking, "But why? But why?"
She at that stage, huh? But why stage? She want to know.
And most parents be like, "But why not? Why? Because I said so." But no, question. I want her to question, but why? So I can explain to her, like, this is why these things are happening, right? This is why you need to take a nap when I need to tell you to take a nap, right?
Right.
So don't have them be fearful in terms of questioning things that they experience in life, whether they're 4 years old or 14.
Yeah, that's extremely important what you said, because once you make them afraid to question, then that just spills over into the other areas of their life, where they're just gonna just accept what someone tells them and not question. So I definitely want to welcome it. Yeah.
Even in the classroom, I see that in the classroom. I have my students, you give them a question, and some of them, not most, but some, they may be hesitant and they may be like, I don't know. I'm like, I want you to question these people that we use that I'm using in terms of this class. Question everything that you see, right?
Yeah, it's promoting learning.
Yeah, it's promoting learning. Don't be afraid to question, right?
Yeah, and I definitely had a mom and grandma that you get it smacked in the mouth. You ask too many questions, but that has negative consequences. But certainly promote that learning, a safe environment.
Yes.
And I like how you mentioned, as far as being just physically in good shape when you're running track in college, how that prepared you for the mental strain. I'm a big believer that goes hand in hand. You have to really be physically tough to handle the mental strain of life. Yes. And that's so true.
Like even now, I've never stopped. Like I've run here and there with this quarantine thing. I started running on my own.
Yeah.
In a little farm area, but I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. That's one of the biggest things that helped me to overcome any type of stress that I may be feeling throughout the day. It's almost like, I'm not sure if you know anything about Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but it's the ground game that you see in mixed martial arts.
Yeah. I used to watch UFC, and I think it was the Gracie, the whole Gracie family. Yeah, that's how I first heard about jiu-jitsu.
But it gets you mentally prepared. I mean, any type of sport can, but being physically active really helps you in terms of overcoming the stress of being a student, right? I always tell my students, I say, if you're stressing here, go work out.
Yeah. That's maybe the last thing they're thinking of, but it could help a lot.
Go work out. I give you some extra credit. Just go work out, right? That's another thing. Making sure that you're physically active and ready. Because when you get into this classroom stuff, it's when you start to use that brain and man, it can be stressful.
Yeah, stressful. Yeah, this is draining. Indeed. So, Dr. Doss, I'm interested in hearing more about your Black masculinity class. More about that. Sounds interesting.
Yeah. So, like I said, this is my third time teaching this class. There's a lot of heavy text that we use in this class, to the point where a lot of my students, I had one student, he came up to me one time, I think it was this semester, matter of fact, he said, "Man, we're reading this book. I've been on this page for about 2 hours because of the terms that this person is using." He said, "I actually had to pull out a dictionary."
Wow.
Said, that's what I want you to do, right? That's what it means to be a student, right? One of the things that I, like I said, do in this class on Black masculinity, man. We travel through a lot of things in terms of looking at the history of Black men and boys in our society. Okay. And so we have I use a lot of heavy texts to challenge the students in terms of reading, but also comprehending and also helping them to figure out ways to interrogate the reading on their own, right? But I want to know what they think about what's being said. And so, like I said, I had one student who he was reading one book. I forget which book it was that I was using, but he was like, "Dr. Doss, man, I've been on this page for like 2 hours trying to figure out what this guy is saying. Is he saying this or is he saying this?" Right. And I remember him saying that, I actually had to pick up a dictionary to understand some of this terminology. And I said, well, this is exactly what I want you to feel like. And this is exactly what I want you to do when you're trying to interrogate this reading, right? Because this is what it means to be a student. And so in this class, man, like I said, we touch on a little bit of everything. We have some heavy discussion, heavy debates. I lecture here and there. My lecture style is different. It's like I come in and I lecture and I may have a discussion in between my lectures, right? That's how I bring my students into the conversation. And I let them know, in this process of learning, I'm going to learn with you, right? Even though I'm your instructor, I'm your professor, but at the same time, I'm also a student as well, right? And so we just learn together. We take this journey together and we make sure we hit on everything. I remember also in this class, I use some video. So I remember I had it was a section where we were talking about the streets, right? In regards to Black men and boys being in the streets. And so we looked at Boys in the Hood. Okay. And one of my students,
that's what I thought about your dad when you were
yeah. So they said, "Oh man, we're gonna watch Boys in the Hood." I said, "Yeah, but not for entertainment purposes, right?" And so we watched some segments of it, and we looked at the different characters in Boys in the Hood, and we looked at Trey, we looked at Doughboy, and looking at the family structure and looking at the community that they were coming from, and trying to understand these different characters, because these different characters do exist in our community.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And even with Doughboy going off to prison and spending some time in jail, I had my students, we started to interrogate on why he went that route. So they went back into the structure of the home. When you look at Doughboy's mom, right, and the things that she used to say to him in terms of destroying him.
Oh yeah, killing his confidence.
Killing his confidence.
Yeah.
And so you begin to look at that, and you're like, okay, this is the reason why he's acting out. This is probably the reason why it led him into the belly of a beast, right? Compared to his brother, right? Ricky was going off to school until he got shot, right? And so a lot of my students who take my class come from communities and have had situations where they have lost loved ones to violence in the streets, right? And so we looked at all of these things, but they also had to apply the things that they read within that week to the movie that they were seeing and to Boys in the Hood. And so, in some of the theories that we talked about before. And so when they look at that, they're like, oh my God, I didn't even know you could teach on Boys in the Hood like this. Like,
some valuable lessons you're breaking down.
It's some valuable lessons. And so, so I love it, man. Like I said, it's my third year teaching it. I'll be teaching it next semester. And also I'm creating a class on social justice and hip hop. And so I'm using hip hop because hip hop artists are like sociologists, right? Yeah. There's this guy that we know in sociology, C. Wright Mills, who coined this phrase, the sociological imagination, which means making the familiar strange. But when you think about hip hop artists, people like Dead Prez, Mos Def, Talib Kweli, a little bit of Jay-Z, Nas. Yeah. I don't care if you go into the trap music in terms of Jeezy. These individuals are like sociologists. They make the familiar strange, even though when they may put a nice little beat to the background. But they try to interrogate not only their lives but the lives of people that they've been around. And so we'll see how this one goes this semester. But hopefully we'll be able to teach it face to face with this corona.
Well, Dr. Doss, this has been a fantastic interview. I really appreciate you taking time to share your expertise with the Mentor Select audience, and just continue doing the great things you're doing, impacting our next generation of leaders, educating them and teaching them to be critical thinkers. Hope to have you back soon, Dr. Doss.
You've been listening to Mentor Select. Mentor Select. Parenting teens to be successful adults. Hosted by Darrich Phillips. Raising teenagers is hard. Understatement of the century. We get it. That's why Derrich interviews leading experts that work with teens, educators, counselors, mentors, and authors to give you practical tips, strategies, and resources that you can incorporate immediately to better connect and understand your teen. That's why we do the show. Be sure to share Mentor Select with other parents of teens. Follow us on social media at Mentor Select to stay up to date on the latest tips, strategies, and resources for parenting teens. Send your questions and comments to Derrich@mentorselect.com. Tune in every Wednesday for new episodes. Till next time, this is Mentor Select.